we've tried to fan cast a lot of things, guys, over the years. It's been years we've been doing this. Never has there been such a level of popularity for a deepfake video that makes it kind of feel redundant to do this. No matter what I do, people are going to comment and say, no, 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 we just want Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. And don't get me wrong, would Tom Holland make a good Marty McFly? I think he'd be pretty good. I think people are just going, oh yeah, he's young and white. But Marty McFly as a character isn't like most of the characters we've seen Tom Holland do. Could he do it? Yeah, probably. Could Robert Downey Jr. play Doc Brown? I don't like that casting. I don't like it. I mean, he's too cool in most of his roles, right? And when he's not, oh gosh, have we ever seen Robert Downey Jr. in a kind of kookier, weirder, professory kind of role? How about in Doolittle? Oh yes, that's exactly the same kind of role, isn't it? Doolittle was bad. Don't cast Robert Downey Jr. as Doc Brown. Please don't do it. No, I don't like it. Don't like that, no. What I'm going to do instead is go much more radical and just say fuck the patriarchy, because that's right, folks. It's probably on the thumbnail already. Marty McFly. I wanted to cast Catherine Newton, okay? No, you can burn me in effigy. You can say, no, God damn it, why all this gender bending? Why all of this? Oh, don't do that. Cast the character. Well, the internet's cast Tom Holland. I don't think the internet's going to change its mind anytime soon. Why do I want to do this? Partially because this is, I mean, it is a sci-fi movie. You know, Back to the Future is a sci-fi movie. It's not the same as a lot of other sci-fi movies, but it is, as much as it is more comedy, I think, it is a sci-fi film. And there's just not a lot of leading female representation still at the very top of sci-fi, I feel. Star Wars sequels got shit on. Sure, they had Rey, but they got shit on. There are examples of it. It's coming through. But I feel like this... Why does Marty need to be a guy? Why can't it be Martina? Is that a... Yeah, okay. People shorten Martina to Marty? They could. I just didn't like any of the other people I was thinking about more than Tom Holland. But I wasn't just going to cast Tom Holland. Everyone's done that already. I'm not saying you couldn't cast him. I'm just saying, if you're not going to, Catherine Newton would be a really good shout. She has got a lot about Marty McFly about her. We saw in Freaky, she was kind of nerdy, kind of a loner. And we don't see Marty get, he doesn't seem to have that many friends, really, honestly. He's got this cute girlfriend. That's the only person we really see him hanging around. But he kind of makes friends fast in the past. Does a good job there. And he emanates this kind of cool nature, despite, being a little bit weird or different, or why does he hang around with just this old scientist? It doesn't make sense, and that doesn't matter. My point is, Catherine Newton emanates all of those things in Freaky, in the Map of Tiny Perfect Things, everything I've seen her in, I'm just going, damn, I like her style. I think that works as a leading role in these young adult kind of things. And Back to the Future, I mean, I don't know what age Michael J. Fox was when they did this. I don't think he was that young, really, but Catherine Newton's about 23, 24. That's a very acceptable age to still be casting them as teenagers, given what role she is playing recently. And she's about to go for Cassie Lang in Ant-Man 3, meaning she's going to be doing that Marvel style. And that Marvel style, I feel like that can be traced to Back to the Future. That feels similar to the style they'd want to use for that modern day. The style they did use for that originally. So, Marty McFly. Is it a controversial choice? Yeah. Do I care? No. So, Doc Brown. Doc Brown, I am keeping as a man. Mostly because I saw someone suggest that they gender bend Doc Brown on the internet, and they said Melissa McCarthy. Oh my God, if I was nightmare casting it, maybe. No, I don't like that at all. God, she played a scientist in Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters was bad, so don't cast her. This is, it's really simple to think about, guys. You just gotta put a little effort in. I want to cast Peter Capaldi as Doc Brown. Yeah, there are a lot of people I considered for this, and there are a lot of other really good people I thought of and could have cast. It was a tough one to decide between. People like Bryan Cranston could do the job really well, don't get me wrong. People like Robert Downey Jr., I'm not sure could. Didn't like him for it. But there are a lot of people who could. I like Peter Capaldi because I feel like he's got the look down without having to really age him up. I feel like the style of the cookiness of Doc Brown is similar in style to Doctor Who. And Peter Capaldi having done that, people say not well. I think he did it well. I think the writing wasn't great when he was around. I think he was very good as the Doctor. And I think there's just a lot to love about all of his characters. You just look recently in David Copperfield. He's doing that cookie style. In the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, he's doing that cookie style as the Thinker. And he's a smart guy, he's witty, he's great at comebacks. Everything you want, I think he's just got for it. And I think he can play that really more cookie side of things that somebody like Robert Downey Jr., I just couldn't see him doing it. Outside of Doolittle, which was bad, so don't do it. Peter Capaldi, much better. Now moving on, Lorraine Baines. Yeah, before she was his mother, she had a different name. So it's okay for her to have sex with Marty, no? No. And obviously, if we're gender bending Marty and then sending him back all the way to, well, time periods would be different, right? Because it was set in the 80s and then they sent him back to the 50s. So in this case, would we be set modern day sending Marty back to the 80s? Something like that? Maybe more like that. Either way, we're sending Marty back to a time when you wouldn't really have Lorraine being bi-curious in high school. It's a weird story. You're more likely, if you do anything creepy and incestuous like that, or just don't do incest, to have Marty's dad be the one that's interested in her, if we're casting like this, okay? But either way, I'd like to cast Madison Eisman as Lorraine. I really love Madison Eisman. I've cast her a fair amount. I see great potential in her to do a lot of great stuff. Lorraine is just a kind character. She's just a kind teenage girl character. She's obviously very attractive, and there wasn't that much more to her originally. She's not overly massive as a character, and it would be interesting to see more done with her. Because, really, it does focus on Marty, but his parents, they don't feel fleshed out as characters. His dad's a pussy, and then he grows a pair. That's his development. His mother wants to have sex with him, and then wants to have sex with his dad instead. That's our character development. Oh my god, we need to change that, guys. If we redo it, we don't need to redo it, but if we redo it, there's some things that gotta change there. So Madison Eisman would be great. And then adult Lorraine. Obviously you need to cast that as well. It's just a good opportunity for some fun meme casting. I think Amy Poehler, she's great, she's funny. I don't know how funny Marty's parents need to be, but she's great, she's funny. And I think she's around the right age now. She's almost at 50. So casting kind of 20-year-old, then 50-year-old seems about right. Although if they're sending them back from modern day to like 1985 when the original came out or something like that, that's 36 years ago now. So that is a bit more. Maybe you need to cast older. It depends. I don't know. I'm just casting for the original, really. George then. George is hard to cast. You need to tread the line between being this kind of creepy nerd and being this pussy and being like a guy that you can root for. And I feel like someone who does that great is a Butterfield. In Sex Education, the show, he does that brilliantly. Because he is this nerdier, introverted kind of character. But you are able to easily root for him. Most of the time. And that's what you want for George. You just want that. Is still around the right age. He's around Catherine Newton, Madison Eisman's age. I think he's 23, 24. So he's right for that. And he is still playing a teenager in Sex Education. So why not, And then adult George, I really thought just Cillian Murphy looks a lot like Asa Butterfield. Maybe I'm crazy there. I feel like the eyes, the hair color, white man. Cillian is a bit young for it. He's about 45, but you can age him up a little bit. Age up his looks. Easy enough done. And I do think they look similar enough for that to be done. For that to work, Jennifer Parker is Marty's girlfriend. I know what you're thinking. Are we going to gender bend her? No. No, I don't think I will. I'm just going to keep Jennifer as Jennifer. Why not? Why not? If we're throwing in, it's a female lead, why don't we just throw in a little representation along the way? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a really good idea again to be doing that for sci-fi films where, how much of it have you seen? How much have you seen in sci-fi film? Yeah. So, I'd like to cast Alicia Bow from 13 Reasons Why. I have, quite a love-hate relationship with 13 Reasons Why. I think a lot of people do. Actually, it's kind of a like-hate. It's kind of a put-up-with-hate. Yeah. But there are a couple of cast members from it I really did love. Alicia Bow was one of them. I thought she was fantastic throughout, no matter what storyline they were doing, no matter what was going on there. I thought she was doing a really good job. She is still young enough, 24-ish still, to play a teenager, where a lot of the 13 Reasons Why cast aren't really anymore. But she'd be great. Jennifer isn't... It's not a very fleshed out role. It could be, especially in the sequels, if the original... If the first one they do keeps the kind of format and story of the first Back to the Future film, then probably not a huge amount for her to do in this one. But I'd love to see her. I think her and Catherine Newton would be great together. Sweet. Gerald Strickland. Now, some people like the idea of casting like Christopher Lloyd to take up this little role, the principal role in the high school. You could. I think he's reached the stage now, Christopher Lloyd, where he's maybe a bit old for it. I don't know how much he's really appearing in nowadays. I'm going to cast J.K. Simmons. I think he's a fantastic, just as a headmaster. He's the kind of person you can just cast as that, but he can also bring some comedy to the role really well, while still being a very strict kind of guy that you're like, oh, you love to hate him. You love to hate J.K. Simmons. He's fantastic. And finally, you need Biff. Fucking Biff, man. There's a couple of guys around that you can imagine playing this dickhead. Just a dickhead. Hopefully less outright rapey this time around. I don't think you need him to be raping Marty's mum for his dad, or her dad, to get involved. Just generally a bad dude, maybe, just a bad dude. That's okay. It's okay. You can be a bully and not a rapist. I know 13 Reasons Why I tried to teach us you have to be one, or like both or neither, but it's fine to be just one. I'd like to cast Jacob Elordi. Yeah. That's the kind of guy that you think, oh, he can't play a teenager anymore, and then you go, oh no, he's still like 23, 24, he's the same age as these other ones I'm casting. So there's no reason why not. He is huge, very imposing and terrifying in all roles, and like in Euphoria, dick. And in the Kissing Booth films, you always feel like he's about to become a dick. You just expect it, looking at him, So, as Biff, I think he'd work really well. Oh, and then as a side note, very finally, PSS, adult Biff, Vince Vaughn. Yep. No, he's into his 50s now. He's the kind of height that you could believe he was Jacob Elordi, I think. And Vince Vaughn just did a really good job, again in Freaky, like Catherine Newton, of looking like a real mess. Looking like a mess. And that's what Biff has to look like. And then Back to the Future 2, he doesn't, but... Oh, let's just not talk about Back to the Future 2, okay? Let's not go there, okay? That's all for this one, guys. There's so much about Back to the Future that is so great. And so much that's weird about it when you overthink it. Don't think through too carefully about it. Let's make a new one. Maybe just so that we can have a version where no rape, no incest, none of that. Try and explain the relationship between Marty and Doc. You gotta explain it somewhat. It just doesn't... why?